Hello, my name is Emily Beynon and today I'm going to talk about harmonics. We can divide the flute into three clear registers. The low register has 16 or 17 notes depending on what your lowest note is, and it goes from that lowest note up to the second octave E flat. The middle register only contains 10 notes and it goes from the middle E up to the C sharp above it. And the top register contains about 13 notes going from that third octave D upwards. All the notes in the middle and top register are produced by a combination of fingerings, lip position and air speed. So if you've ever had a middle E crack, and who hasn't, then that's probably because we don't recognise that as being the first note of the middle register. You'll hear here that I can get 8 notes out of just that low C. There's the fundamental C, which is the note I'm fingering, and above that, all the notes are harmonics. We have 7 harmonics from that initial fundamental. Now, there are all sorts of ways of practicing harmonics and they all have their own purpose. The way I see it, there are 3 ways of playing higher on the flute. The first is volume, pushing more air through the flute, and that will create a louder sound. The second way is to use the lips, slightly changing the aperture, how open they are, and slightly changing the direction. And the third way is using the speed of air. So for each of those registers, we're going to need to double the speed of the air. And my way of practicing harmonics is to focus on this third way of playing higher on the instrument. Air speed, we can't see because it happens somewhere deep inside the air column. I experience it as being a slight increase of pressure from the abdominals. So for my way of practicing harmonics, I make sure I don't make any crescendo as I go up. I make sure I don't move my lips, so I practice it in front of a mirror. And then I must be using the air speed to obtain the higher note. So for me, it's very important to practice this legato, because if you use your tongue, that might be doing all the work in increasing the airspeed. And I focus on 3 notes at a time: the fundamental, the first harmonic, which will be at the octave, and the second harmonic, which is an octave and a fifth. In practice, we use a little bit of all 3 of these elements, but I want to make sure that I don't have to play louder when I play higher, and that there's enough flexibility left in my lips once I obtain the note to be able to change the intonation ever so slightly. So the most useful way for me to practice harmonics is focusing on the air speed. And by the way, I don't use any vibrato in this exercise, so we can really focus on the air stream. And I don't ever play them very loud. Something like mezzo piano is fine. Don't force when you're practicing this exercise. Any build-up of frustration or anger is only going to build up the tension in your body and will result in you having less chance of succeeding. So keep relaxed. Now, if you find that your harmonics are a little bit out of tune, don't worry. Because we're not using the lips, once we've achieved the note, we can use the lips later on to make the fine-tuning of intonation. And if you're completely lost, try the harmonics the other way around initially. I'm going to start off playing the second octave C and then finger the first octave C and let the second octave C come out. And then we can try the same thing on the G, fingering the second octave G and then keeping the same note as we finger the low C. So let's get started with the first exercise. And I'm going to finger a low C, and with a very gentle airstream, maybe piano or mezzo piano, I'm going to first play that low C, and then without getting louder and without using the lips, I'm going to slightly increase the abdominal pressure and float up to the first octave. When that feels easy and you can time it relatively accurately, then you're ready to move on to step 2. In step 2, we work from the same low C fingering without hearing a crescendo, without using the lips. We're going to slightly increase the pressure in the abdominals and float up from the first until the second harmonic. When step 2 feels relatively easy and you can time that movement quite accurately, then we're ready to move on to step 3. Now, each of these steps could take a few goes, could take a few days, or even a few weeks. It's really important that you keep calm and relaxed. That will increase the possibility of it working. What's step 3? We go from the fundamental, without crescendo, without moving the lips, floating up to the first harmonic, and then floating to the second harmonic. And repeat that a few times. Remember, we're always playing legato, whether it's 2 notes or 3 notes that we're connecting, and don't use any vibrato. So now we're ready to move on to the second exercise, and this is what I call upside down harmonics. It's basically the same principle as the first exercise, but now we're going to finger notes from the top register and let the ghost notes from the first and second register be our harmonics. So I'm going to start with an E flat, fingering a 3rd octave E flat, and I'm just going to let the low octave ghost note come out. And from that, without crescendo, without using the lips, slightly increasing the abdominal pressure, I'm just going to float up from the low register ghost note to the middle register ghost note. So when that step feels relatively easy and you can time that quite accurately, then we're ready to try going from the middle register ghost note up until the 3rd octave note, the one that you're actually fingering. Now, it might not be your best sound when you arrive there. It might not be very well in tune, but because we're not using our lips, we've got all that flexibility to make those fine adjustments. We're not using the lips to arrive at the note. So step 3 is joining those 3 steps together, legato, non-vibrato, without getting louder as you go up, without using the lips as you go up, slightly increase the pressure in the abdominals and floating each step of the way. And just as we did in exercise 1, then we're going to move up. The next step would be to do those 3 steps on the E natural and then those 3 steps on the F. So now moving on to the 3rd exercise, and now the air speed is still going to be the main focus of our attention, but we're going to have a little bit of help from the lips too. We're going to play a little tune. You can make up your own tune on the 1st, 2nd and 3rd harmonics. Keeping the sound light and floating, certainly not more than mezzo piano, and legato as much as possible, and without vibrato as much as possible. Take any tension away from your lips, so they might feel a little bit wobbly. Now, in my harmonics practice, I also like to do a few whistle tones. It's really useful for getting a very small, very controlled airstream. And you can achieve whistle tones in two ways. If you play a low D, for example, with a long diminuendo, at the end of that diminuendo, just when the note starts getting fuzzy, then you can pick out one note, and that's the start of your whistle tone. The other way is fingering a top register note and blowing very little air through that. I think that's a little bit easier, that one. It's a really very fine, light, thin stream of air. I find this a really useful exercise for every day, but especially before a concert, especially if the audience is in danger of hearing me warm up. So I hope you've enjoyed this video. See you next time.